There's a war happening inside you right now. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic collapse you see in movies. This is the slow erosion, the quiet theft of your capacity to feel anything real. You wake up, go through motions, chase things that promise satisfaction but deliver only more hunger, and somewhere deep down, beneath the noise and the obligations and the performances you put on for everyone else, there's a question you keep avoiding. What if everything you're holding on to is exactly what's destroying you? What if the path to peace, to real power, to pleasure that doesn't leave you empty, requires not addition, but subtraction? What if you've been building a life on foundations that were never meant to support the weight of who you actually are? Today, we're talking about removal. Surgical, silent, necessary removal. Not the kind of self-help advice that tells you to be better, do more, optimize harder. This is about the things you need to let die. The beliefs, the patterns, the relationships, the stories you tell yourself that keep you trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction dressed up as ambition. This isn't comfortable territory. Most people would rather add another course, another routine, another distraction than face what needs to be cut away. But you're still here, which means you're not most people. Let's start with the first thing that has to go. Number 1. The need to be understood by everyone? Listen closely because this one runs deeper than you think. You've been taught that being misunderstood is a form of failure, that if people don't get you, you need to explain yourself better. Justify your choices, make your reasoning clear. So you spend hours, days, years trying to make people see why you do what you do, why you think the way you think, why you need what you need. And in that process, you hand over your power piece by piece. You give others authority over your internal world. Here's what the ancient hedonists understood that modern life has forgotten. Your pleasure, your peace, exists independent of others' comprehension. Epicurus didn't build his garden to be understood by Athens, he built it for those who already understood. The rest could think what they wanted. Their confusion was not his burden. When you release the need to be understood, something shifts. You stop performing your life and start living it. You stop editing your truth to fit other people's frameworks. The energy you were spending on explanation and justification floods back into you, and suddenly there's space for actual experience instead of the constant narration of experience. Think about the last time you made a choice that felt right to you but looked wrong to others. How much time did you spend defending it? How much mental energy went into crafting explanations, anticipating criticism, building cases for your own life? That's borrowed suffering. That's not your pain. That's pain you're taking on because you believe you owe others access to your reasoning. You don't. The people who matter will trust you even when they don't understand. The people who don't matter will doubt you even when you explain perfectly. Stop trying to bridge that gap. It's not your job. Your job is to know yourself well enough that you can move through the world without needing constant external validation of your internal compass. Number 2. The myth of balance. You've heard it 1,000 times. Work-life balance, balanced diet, balanced perspective. Balance as if it's some achievable state, some plateau you reach where everything gets equal time and energy and nothing tips over. It's a lie. And worse, it's a lie that keeps you mediocre. Balance is a corporate myth designed to make you manageable. Life isn't balanced. Passion isn't balanced. Real pleasure, the kind that transforms you, isn't balanced. It's obsessive. It's consuming. It's the thing you can't stop thinking about even when you should be thinking about something else. The philosophers who actually lived, who actually created something that lasted beyond their lifetime, they weren't balanced. They were obsessed. Nietzsche walked alone for hours every day, thinking until his head hurt. Diogenes lived in a barrel and told Alexander the Great to get out of his sunlight. These weren't balanced men. They were men who knew what mattered to them and they pursued it with everything they had. When you chase balance, you dilute yourself. You spread your energy so thin across so many areas that nothing gets the full force of who you are. And then you wonder why nothing feels satisfying, why pleasure feels shallow, why power feels like something other people have. It's because you're trying to be everything to everyone, including yourself. You're trying to be the good employee, the good partner, the good friend, the good child, the healthy person, the cultured person, the well-rounded person, the well-rounded person, and in trying to be all of it, you become none of it fully. Release balance. Embrace imbalance. Find the thing that makes you feel most alive and tip the scales toward it unapologetically. Let some things fall away. Let some areas of your life be neglected. Not forever, not recklessly, but enough that the thing that matters most gets the fuel it needs to burn bright. That's where power lives. That's where real pleasure comes from. Not from maintaining equilibrium, but from going all in on what calls to you. And if you've been resonating with this, maybe it's time to join the space where we go deeper every week. You know where the button is. Number 3, the performance of productivity. You've turned your life into a performance. Every morning you wake up with a list. Every evening you assess whether you did enough. Enough work, enough exercise, enough learning, enough progress towards some future version of yourself that's always just out of reach. You've gamified your existence, tracked your habits, optimized your routines, measured your output, and somewhere in all that doing, you forgot how to be. This is the trap of our age. We've confused motion with meaning. We've convinced ourselves that if we're not producing, we're not valuable. If we're not improving, we're falling behind. So we fill every moment with something. Podcasts while we walk, audiobooks while we drive, scrolling while we eat. We've eliminated the space where pleasure actually lives, which is in the unstructured, unproductive, unmeasured moment. The hedonists knew something we'd forgotten. Pleasure is not a reward for productivity. It's not something you earn after you've done enough work. It's the thing itself. It's the experience of being alive without agenda. Epicurus called it ataraxia, a state of tranquil pleasure, freedom from anxiety and fear. You don't achieve that through more doing, you achieve it through less. Through the radical act of stopping, of sitting in your garden and feeling the sun without needing to document it, without needing to turn it into content or progress or proof that you're living well. The performance of productivity is stealing your life from you. It's turning every experience into a transaction. Did I get enough out of this? Was this time well spent? Can I justify this hour to myself and others? Stop justifying. Stop performing. Start experiencing. Let some days be slow. Let some hours be empty. Let yourself exist without producing evidence of your existence. That's where peace lives. In the unmonitored, unoptimized, unperformed moment. Number 4. The idea that you can have it all. This one's going to hurt because you've been sold this lie your whole life. You can have the career, and the relationship, and the body, and the social life, and the hobbies, and the travel, and the financial freedom, and the spiritual depth. You can have it all if you just work hard enough, want it bad enough, manage your time well enough. It's not true. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can stop exhausting yourself trying to collect every possible experience and achievement. Life is not a buffet. You can't sample everything and walk away satisfied. You have to choose. And choosing means letting other options die. This is the cost no one talks about. Every yes is 1,000 no's. Every path you take is 10,000 paths you don't. And that's not tragic. That's not limiting. That's what makes your choices meaningful. When you try to have it all, you end up with nothing fully. You get shallow versions of everything. Surface-level career, surface-level relationships, surface-level hobbies. You're spread so thin that you can't go deep anywhere. And depth is where pleasure lives. Depth is where power comes from. Mastery requires obsession. Connection requires presence. Neither of those is possible when you're trying to juggle 50 things at once. The ancient philosophers understood this. They talked about the good life, the life worth living, and it wasn't defined by accumulation. It wasn't about having the most experiences or achievements or possessions. It was about knowing what matters to you and organizing your entire existence around that. Everything else is noise. Everything else is distraction dressed up as opportunity. So, what actually matters to you? Not what you think should matter. Not what looks impressive to others. What genuinely moves you? What makes you feel most alive? Most yourself? Most at peace? Figure that out and then be ruthless about protecting it. Say no to everything that doesn't serve it. Let opportunities pass. Let relationships fade. Let versions of yourself that don't align with your core truth die quietly. This isn't selfish. This is self-preservation. This is the only way to live a life that feels like yours, instead of a life that looks good from the outside but feels hollow from within. Number 5. The safety of certainty. You crave certainty. It's human. You want to know how things will turn out, what the right choice is, where the safe path leads, so you wait. You gather more information, you weigh more options, you consult more people. You postpone the decision until you can be sure. And while you're waiting for certainty, your life is passing. Here's the truth that philosophy has been trying to tell you for thousands of years. There is no certainty. There never was. The ground you think you're standing on is shifting constantly. The future you're trying to predict is being written by forces you can't control. The only certainty is this moment, and even that's gone before you finish thinking about it. But we've built entire lives around avoiding uncertainty. We choose careers because they seem stable. We stay in relationships because leaving feels too risky. We hold back from what we really want because we can't guarantee it'll work out. And in that holding back, we guarantee the one outcome we should actually fear, which is reaching the end, having never really tried, never really risked, never really lived. The philosophers who embraced uncertainty, who walked into the unknown without maps or guarantees, they're the ones who found something real. They're the ones whose ideas still matter thousands of years later. Not because they had answers, but because they were brave enough to live the questions. Uncertainty is not the enemy of peace. Clinging to the illusion of certainty is because when you need certainty, every change becomes a threat. Every unknown becomes a source of anxiety. You're constantly bracing for the next disruption, the next loss of control. But when you release the need for certainty, when you accept that uncertainty is the actual nature of reality, something loosens. You stop fighting what is you, stop trying to force outcomes. You start responding instead of controlling. And in that space, there's a different kind of peace. Not the peace of knowing what's coming, but the peace of knowing you can handle whatever comes. That's power. Real power. Not the power to control everything, but the power to remain yourself regardless of what happens. And maybe you're starting to see how these pieces fit together. How each thing we remove creates space for something more essential. If that resonates, consider staying for the whole journey. There's more here than just this conversation. Number 6. Toxic nostalgia. You're haunted by a past that never existed. You remember how things used to be, how you used to feel, how simple everything was before life got complicated. You tell yourself stories about the person you were, the opportunities you had, the choices you should have made. And in those stories, the past becomes a weapon you use against your present. This is toxic nostalgia. It's different from healthy reflection. Healthy reflection looks at the past to understand patterns, to learn, to integrate experience. Toxic nostalgia uses the past to invalidate the present. It says your best days are behind you, that you've lost something essential that you'll never get back, that you're somehow less now than you were then. It's a trap, and it's keeping you from being here in this moment, which is the only moment where pleasure, peace, and power actually exist. The past you're romanticizing wasn't as perfect as you remember. Your memory is selective. It's highlighting the good and filtering out the struggle, the confusion, the pain you were in back then. You're comparing your inside now, with all its messy complexity, to the edited highlight reel of your past. That's not fair to who you are today. And more than that, it's stealing your capacity to be present. To notice what's beautiful and powerful and pleasurable about right now. Every moment you spend wishing you were back there is a moment you're not fully here. And this moment is all you have. This breath, this sensation, this choice. The past is gone. It can teach you, but it can't hold you unless you let it. Release the story that your best days are behind you. Release the version of yourself you keep trying to get back to. You're not supposed to go back. You're supposed to integrate what you've learned and become something new, something more layered, more complex, more capable of depth than you were before. That's the direction. Forward, not back. Not into some mythical past where everything was easier, but into a present where you're more equipped to handle what is. Stop using nostalgia as an escape from now. Start using now as the raw material for what comes next. That's where your power is. Not in who you were, but in who you're becoming. Number 7. The need to always be right. You're exhausting yourself trying to be right. Right about politics, right about philosophy, right about the way people should live, right about your choices, right about your opinions. You enter conversations as debates. You hear disagreement as attack. You collect evidence for your positions, like you're building a fortress. And inside that fortress, you're alone. Because being right is not the same as being connected. Being right is not the same as being at peace. It's a form of control, a way to feel superior, to feel safe, to feel like you have some handle on a world that's fundamentally ambiguous and complex. But that safety comes at a cost. It costs you curiosity. It costs you growth. It costs you the ability to be wrong, which is the only way you ever learn anything real. The philosophers worth reading weren't the ones who had all the answers. They were the ones brave enough to ask better questions. Socrates spent his life claiming he knew nothing, not as false humility, but as a methodology. The moment you think you know, you stop looking. You stop listening. You stop being open to what's actually here in favor of what you already decided is true. And that closing off, that hardening into rightness, it kills pleasure. Because pleasure requires openness. It requires the ability to be surprised, to be moved, to have your mind changed. When you need to always be right, you can't afford any of that. You have to maintain your position, defend your territory, prove your point. It's lonely, it's rigid, and it's completely unnecessary. What if you didn't need to be right? What if you could enter conversations to explore rather than to win? What if you could hold your beliefs lightly enough that they could evolve as you encounter new information, new perspectives, new experiences? That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's the mark of someone who's secure enough in themselves that they don't need their opinions to prove their worth. Your worth is inherent. Your intelligence isn't measured by how often you're right, but by how willing you are to update your understanding when you're wrong. Release the need to be right. Embrace the possibility of being wrong. That's where growth lives. That's where real conversation happens. That's where you connect with others as fellow explorers rather than opponents to defeat. Number 8. The belief that suffering makes you virtuous. This one's deeply embedded. You've been taught that struggle is noble, that the harder something is, the more valuable it is, that if you're not suffering, you're not doing it right. So you've built a life that's harder than it needs to be. You choose the difficult path, even when an easier one would get you where you want to go. You wear your exhaustion as a badge of honor. You brag about how little you sleep, how much you work, how much you sacrifice. And somewhere in that performance of suffering, you lost the plot. Because suffering is not virtuous. It's just suffering. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's the price of something worth having. But it's not good in itself. It's not something to seek out or romanticize or use as proof that you're serious. The hedonists understood this. They weren't advocating for mindless pleasure-seeking. They were saying that a good life is one where you minimize unnecessary suffering and maximize sustainable pleasure. Notice the word sustainable. They weren't talking about addiction or excess. They were talking about a life structured around what actually feels good, what actually brings peace, what actually nourishes you. But we've twisted that into something shameful. We call it soft, indulgent, hedonistic in the negative sense. We act like choosing ease is somehow morally inferior to choosing struggle. It's not. Choosing unnecessary struggle is not noble. It's just masochism, dressed up as virtue. Where in your life are you suffering unnecessarily? Where are you making things harder because you think you should? Where are you punishing yourself because on some level you don't believe you deserve ease? Look at that, question it, because the belief that suffering makes you virtuous is stealing your capacity for joy. It's making you suspicious of pleasure. It's teaching you that if something feels good, it must be wrong. And that's a recipe for a life that's dutiful but dead. A life that looks impressive from the outside but feels like penance from within. You don't owe the world your suffering. You don't become better by being miserable. You become better by being honest about what nourishes you and brave enough to build a life around that, even when it looks easy, even when others don't understand, even when it doesn't fit the narrative of noble struggle. Maybe you're realizing there's a pattern here, that what needs to be removed isn't random. It's all the ways we've learned to betray ourselves. If this is landing, you're in the right place. More of this waiting for you every time you come back. Number 9. The comparison trap. You're bleeding power through the wound of comparison. Every time you measure yourself against someone else, every time you scroll and feel less than, every time you see someone else's success as commentary on your failure, you're giving away your energy. You're handing over your peace to external metrics that have nothing to do with your actual path. And it's endless. Because there will always be someone doing better, someone further along, someone with more of what you think you should have. The comparison game is rigged. You can't win it. You can only lose yourself in it. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. Comparison doesn't feel like a choice. It feels automatic. You see something, you measure yourself against it, you feel bad. It happens so fast you don't even notice you're doing it, but it is a choice. Maybe not a conscious one yet, but it's a pattern you've reinforced over years until it became a reflex. And like any reflex, it can be interrupted. The first step is noticing, catching yourself in the act of comparison, not judging it, not fighting it, just seeing it clearly. Oh, there I go again. Measuring my success against theirs. Feeling less than because they have something I don't. Once you see the pattern, you can start to question it. Is their path even one I want? Am I comparing my beginning to their middle? Am I assuming their external success means internal satisfaction? Usually no. Usually you're comparing your messy reality to their curated presentation. You're comparing your inside to their outside. And that's not just unfair, it's meaningless. The ancient Stoics had a practice for this. They called it living according to your own nature. Not according to what others are doing, not according to what society says you should want, but according to what actually aligns with who you are. When you do that, comparison becomes irrelevant. Because you're not running the same race as anyone else. You're on your own path, moving at your own pace, toward your own definition of what makes life worth living. Someone else's success doesn't diminish yours. Someone else's beauty doesn't make you less beautiful. Someone else's peace doesn't take away from the peace available to you. There's not a finite amount. You're not competing for scraps. Release comparison. Not by forcing positive thoughts or pretending you don't care, but by getting so clear on your own path that other people's paths become interesting but irrelevant. Like watching a different sport, you can appreciate it, but it's got nothing to do with your game. Number 10, the illusion of control. This is the big one, the one underneath all the others. You think you have control over your life, your outcomes, your future. And because you think you have control, you exhaust yourself trying to exercise it. You plan obsessively. You contingency plan. You try to anticipate every variable, manage every risk, force every outcome. And when things don't go according to plan, which is most of the time, you feel like you failed, like you didn't try hard enough, think ahead enough, control well enough. But here's what the philosophers have been trying to tell you since ancient Greece. You don't have as much control as you think. Most of what happens is outside your influence. The only thing you genuinely control is your response to what happens, your thoughts, your choices, your actions in this moment. That's it. That's the whole sphere of your control. Everything else, other people, circumstances, outcomes, that's all beyond you. And trying to control what you can't control is the fastest path to suffering. It's why you're anxious all the time, why you can't relax,